Welcome to Morning Bytes. How is everybody doing today? This is our monthly 30-minute show where we can talk about the most important topics in cyber. We talk about all things cyber, privacy, technology, and everyone's favorite cyber insurance. Please welcome our guests. First up, he's an architect, inventor, advisor, and cybersecurity strategist for cyber firm Hidden. It's Tyler Croak.
Nice to meet you guys. Great to be here. Thanks for having me on the show.
All right, Tyler. And keeping us in suspense, but very exciting, is the head of U.S. Underwriting Management for Cyber Risk at the powerhouse cyber insurer Beasley. It's Craig A. Linton III.
No, just not the third. but glad, nice to be here with you, Stu, and thank you for the introduction.
I think you said that because of the bowler hat in the background just made it
yes,
a little bit more prestigious. Keep going, Stu. I didn't mean to jump in.
And I was neglectful not to introduce myself, Stu Padansky, and my co-hosts Violet Sullivan and Jason Rebholz. Just a quick note, the views and opinions expressed in this show are our own and not of our employers. Very important note to keep. Please, everyone in the audience, say hello, drop a comment in the comments, and tell us where you're from. Introduce yourself.
I figured out something really cool
what
just
value
now.
you offer.
I can actually put the comments on the screen. Do you see that? New trick.
Oh, awesome.
Does it show up? No?
Yep.
All right.
Okay.
We're doing it live.
I do. That's awesome. Well, let's get to know our audience and let's get the conversation started. Violet, what has been on your mind this month in all things cyber?
I feel like there's some weeks where we all come unprepared and we just kind of start riffing. And this week, there was so much news that we all knew exactly what we were going to. Mine is not high tech. Mine is good old psychological manipulation. Lian actually has been tied to, or the name is being used for physical mail ransom. So the threats are coming in the actual mail, USPS. We're seeing that at first, this is kind of going to people high in the company. They're finding the addresses of CFOs and CEOs. They're getting a piece of mail and it says, scan this QR code. All your stuff is locked up, but here, you can scan this to pay crypto and get out of this mess. But then there's a step of verification. So what they're banking on is people don't go and verify and say, hi, IT security, do we have any issues or problems? And can we look for them? Doing that look around on the security side. They're banking and wanting people to do just a quick action. Oh, look, see, I love this feature now. I'm going to put all of these awesome people commenting.
So distracted now.
Why? No, I could keep going. It's just you that's distracted, Craig. All right, so Lian sent physical mail. I think it took us about a week to figure out that this doesn't sound like Lian, who's a well-known threat actor group. They usually communicate by emails, also phone calls, but we haven't seen the snail mail thing before. And also, the actual letter that's been presented doesn't have a method of communication. So there's a callback to communicate. Instead, they have a QR code. So it seems like it's an interesting hoax to try to jump in and take the credit for threat actor. But what do you think about it, guys? Are you hearing it come in a lot? I've heard some claims being started, but usually it's a conversation in the scoping call and not necessarily any real harm.
Yeah, I think it's early days on how it's all going to shake out, but everything I've seen and heard, it seems like it's fake. Now, you still want to make sure it's fake, right? You got to make sure that there isn't somebody in your environment. But it reminds me a lot of some of the sextortion scams. I remember early on, this was years ago. This tells you how old this tactic is. Somebody had called up and said, "Hey, I got an email saying that they caught me at a conference." Doing something I shouldn't have done. And I was like, well, did you do it? And he's like, no, but I'm still nervous. And I was like, okay, don't pay it. Do not pay this. I was like, this is a scam. But you could see the psychological toll that it has on people. And that's what they're banking on.
I think it takes you off guard because right before we turned live, I was talking to you about this. Is like I remember receiving the email, and it's so out of context. It came to my Baylor Law School teaching email, and I definitely called the help desk after, and I said, "Why the hell is this going through the spam filter? This is like a religious university. I don't like all these extortion emails that are coming through your spam filter." But it makes you feel like you've done something wrong just by the words that they use and the implications that they're making. I think there's a lot of psychological stuff that people kind of push aside and think it's purely technical.
Let's get into some of the business side of this, though, because I think that's really interesting. So you said it took us a while to figure out. I know that the way things sort of trickle in is that this event would happen to someone, to a company, and they would have to report it to someone, to a cybersecurity specialist, right? Like Tyler or Jason, or your insurance company, and then they would have to do an investigation to determine what happened. So I don't know, Tyler or Craig, walk us through that, like from your perspective. How does it come around till you understand that this is not some sort of new, serious threat, and it's really more of something to pay attention to?
Craig, I was going to let you go first.
Well, he can't answer until he puts the hat on.
No, the hat is in my background. I can't. That's not a real. That's not a real hat. I'm not in the office. It's a fake background. So, but putting on my
it matches the
shift your chair over a little bit.
Yeah. Here we go. You're making it look fake. Yeah. I mean, like, I feel like these things are. This is just. It's showing up today, and it probably is not going to. I don't think it's going to work very much because people have to do just a one Google search, and they'll figure out that, oh, this has been spammed to a bunch of people, and it's nothing to worry about. Plus, like, the snail mail doesn't really scale well because it costs money, and like I don't know if you've checked the price of a stamp, but I thought it was like last time I checked, I was like, oh, it's like what? 37 cents? No, it's like, I don't know, 75 cents or something like that.
I think it's double that. Like, I think it's like 78.
It's like, it's expensive now. So like,
what about the price of eggs?
Yeah, the extortion payment is actually for eggs, not big.
I know.
Wrong show, Violet.
Yeah,
Wrong show.
I promise. eggs are going up, and no, I think we see stuff like this periodically, and they show up and they have a good run. There's a few weeks where we see these, and then like they go away because I think that the threat actors realize that like, this probably isn't the most effective use of my time. And I don't know. If you're a threat actor, do you really want to be like stuffing envelopes for like 8 hours a day? That sounds terrible. Like,
I'll give like a slightly different. I'll give a slightly different angle and perspective. So like when I think about something like this, I think about the psychological piece as well. And a part of that for me comes down to like the successful tactics of people dropping USB drives in front of someone's house and then them plugging it into a computer, and then, basically their system gets compromised. So I think it could affect some age demographics specifically. Like, that tactic might work on
young people. Are you talking about young 70s people, or
like someone in their 70s? If they get something like that, like my grandma, for example, she could call that number and get duped easily. So I think some of it does come down to age demographics, and maybe some of that comes into play with the threat actors targeting as well. So it's just an interesting way to target people, and it may be successful for some age demographics. I always think about that aspect when we've got threat actors focusing on targeting people, right?
I think the biggest difference in this one is the amount for the ransom. Like, if they set the ransom low enough, a couple $1,000s, you might be able to dupe a couple companies into paying it. But some of these ransoms were hundreds of thousands of dollars, and that's just where, like, I would hope that most companies aren't going to go and pay that. But this is the thing I always hated in forensics, was trying to prove a negative is really annoying, because it's like, well, like, how do you know? So like, there are some shortcuts you can take to try to, figure out, where your data is, look at some unusual activity. But the first few people who got these letters where there wasn't enough information on it, those are the real pioneers, because they're the ones that had to go do the heavy lifting to figure out, like, is this actually real or not?
Yep.
Yeah, good point. And I guess I'll close that out just by saying that we would hope that people are wise, and hats off to the pioneers. Hey, all right, Tyler, why don't we go over to you? What stories were you been paying attention to this month? And welcome to our show.
Again, thanks for having me. So my topic is, I think, really interesting. Palo Alto's Unit 42, they released a new research article last week on some phishing activity that they've connected to a threat actor group that they've dubbed, the name of the group they've dubbed Java Ghost. So this is a threat actor that's been active for around 5 years, and historically they participated in website defacement activities. But in 2022, they shifted focus to sending out phishing campaigns to unsuspecting targets. So more recently, they're focusing on compromising cloud environments to send out phishing campaigns for mostly financial gain. And so what's interesting, though, about this is the group actually takes advantage of misconfigurations in a victim organization's environment, leveraging exposed AWS credentials in the form of long-term access keys. And they use those leaked keys and combine it with overly permissive identity access management permissions to leverage that compromised AWS tenant and built-in email services that are attached to that tenant to send out phishing messages to downstream connected organizations. So they're effectively building out a complex phishing infrastructure in a target organization's environment, and then they're leveraging that phishing infrastructure to then send out phishing attacks to downstream connected organizations. So this lets that actor basically not pay for the phishing infrastructure at all, and then it allows them to bypass most email protections that are set by the organization being targeted.
They have that built-in business trust.
Exactly. So to me, it's like a new angle of a supply chain attack, but it's more identity focused, right? So they're not having to pay for any of that infrastructure, and then they'll leverage that infrastructure to reach out to connected downstream organizations and abuse that sort of trust. So really interesting research, and just quite an interesting pivot on supply chain compromise, just a different angle for it. So yeah, that's my topic for today. Curious what you guys think about that.
Well, I'm wondering if you're not looking at, you're not having a close look at the rules and ways that they've tried to obfuscate like their activity. How long might it take people to realize this? Because it would take, if they're not going to see the technical signs, then it's likely going to take a client going, wait a second, is this you?
Yeah, what I've observed in the research, at least, is that they've gotten really smart with obfuscating their activity, right? So in some cases, some of these logs aren't like turned on by default. In other cases, like organizations simply aren't like monitoring for things like new user account creation events, which is something that is sort of highlighted in the research. So it's very they're getting very sophisticated, and they're thinking more widely about how can I gain from accessing this organization in multiple ways.
And that initial access, you said it was just through access keys. I assume those are ones that are leaked online somehow. People left exposed, and they just scoop them up and log right in.
Yeah, it's that whole opportunistic nature of these actors, right? Is like, let's choose the path of least resistance to get in. A lot of time it's previously compromised credentials or credentials that they've scanned and found, and they leverage that to create temporary accounts, create accounts that are very difficult to track activity for, and then they're leveraging that to launch these phishing campaigns.
So the equivalent of this would be Stu leaves his garage door opener code on the internet, and then I just take that and walk into his house and watch on his Netflix account. That's maybe watch some Love Is Blind there.
Start sending emails from his computer, and yeah,
basically abuse of trust entirely. Really, really interesting stuff.
So this is the third month in a row, I think, that we're going to say that identity is the new perimeter. You really, as an organization, have to be paying attention to that access management, which a lot of times, we counsel our clients is potentially low cost. It's maybe high attention. You have to pay attention to this. There's time incurred, resources incurred, but it's not cost intensive.
Yeah, I mean, you're spot on, Stu. I mean, even in their reports, the annual reports are just coming out right now this time of year. So we have CrowdStrike's annual report, Palo Alto's annual report that come out, and we're seeing through the 2024 data, the number one initial access vector is identity in these reports so far. So I'm sure we might see something different from some of the other annual reports, but absolutely, identity attacks are on the rise.
All right. Well, I appreciate that. That was a good trip down security lane. Craig, what's you've been paying attention to lately?
So in my LinkedIn post, promoting this session, this morning Bytes, I said probably going to talk about AI. Surprise, surprise! Like less than a day later, I found the most crazy AI story. It's in the Wall Street Journal, and it's about Ilya Sutskever, who you may not know, but you probably used his product. Basically, he was like the head scientist at OpenAI, and before he had that tussle last year with Sam Altman, and I guess he got Sam Altman fired, and then Sam Altman came back and got him fired. So he left, and he created this company called Safe Superintelligence. Very ominous sounding name, but so you're thinking, okay, this guy, he created ChatGPT. He just started a new company. So what's he going to do? He's going to probably go out there and create a copy of ChatGPT. He's probably going to just use the same architecture as ChatGPT, and then he'll just create a copy of ChatGPT, but it's called Safe Superintelligence. No, he's like, I'm starting a new company, and we're not going to use transformers. We're not going to. I know a different way. So okay, that's kind of weird. Like, why would you go out and what
make
works?
it harder?
Yeah, and now you're like, no, I know how to do this in a different way. Okay, but he's a genius, right? So okay, he's going out, and so obviously he's going to hire like the best and the brightest. He knows who he worked with at OpenAI, who's smart, and California doesn't have non-competes. They don't enforce non-competes, so he can go hire all these people, right? No, he's like, I'm not going to hire the smartest people. I'm going to go hire like some noobs who are like, don't know anything about this, but I can train them, which is insane. So he's going to, on a new architecture with people who don't know what they're doing. Okay, so at least he doesn't necessarily, all right, this is a little dicey, but he's probably just going to like create a product real quick, cash in, start getting the money flowing, getting that monthly recurring revenue. No, he's not going to do that either. He's going to wait. He's like, I'm going to wait until we have achieved super intelligence before we release a product. Like, are you kidding me? Like, he's just going to like churn and churn in the background. We don't even know if like super intelligence is even possible. He's just going to wait. And so, okay, you're thinking, all right, this is kind of crazy. So he must be self-funding, because nobody would invest in this, right? Like, nobody's going to invest in this company that doesn't have a product, that's making a new product that doesn't even that has never existed before, with people who don't know what they're doing. No, he's gotten $2 billion of investment, $2 billion at a $30 billion valuation, pre-revenue, pre-product. It's insane. But that, I think, is illustrative of the AI. All right, on the negative side, you could call it the hype cycle that we're in, or you could say it's illustrative of the promise that AI has. And
but help our audience and help me. What is the difference between intelligence and super intelligence?
Well, okay, so right now we just have like artificial intelligence.
There's so many jokes you could have added there, Craig, before you actually got into the
Well, let me talk about the people on this call.
You didn't even say it's between me and you or whatever. It was like
touche. So like right now we have like artificial intelligence. You got your ChatGPT. It's pretty darn smart, but I think everybody agrees that like we don't have the next thing that we're looking for, which is artificial general intelligence. And everybody kind of defines artificial intelligence differently, artificial general intelligence differently. But it's kind of like, okay, if we get something that is as smart as a human, or smarter than a human on like 95% of things, then that's artificial general intelligence. And I think everybody agrees we're not, like everybody who thinks about this agrees we're not quite there yet. Despite the fact that a lot of the stuff that the ChatGPT and all the other artificial intelligence companies are doing is kind of mind blowing. We're not quite there yet. But artificial superintelligence is like beyond artificial general intelligence. It's like, it's like Einstein level in all fields of study, that level of intelligence. And that is, the idea is like, if you create artificial superintelligence, and you've created the last machine that humanity will ever need to make, because the superintelligence will just make whatever else we need it to make, and it will improve and improve and improve. And then, hopefully we'll be living in some kind of luxury communism where all our needs are catered to by the robots. But like, that is the idea.
A true utopian paradise, if I've ever heard one.
Right. A true utopian paradise, and or the outcome of the Terminator movies. Like, one of those two is likely
going to be one or the other.
Happen. Yeah, it's one or the other. But yeah, so this is just insane. And like, there's so many crazy things happening in AI. The crazy amount of spend. Like, if you look at in the last quarter, Google, Amazon, Meta, and Microsoft were spending $50 billion per quarter on artificial intelligence. Per quarter. That's over $200 billion a year. Last week, Apple announced they're going to invest like $500 billion over the next few years on a lot of AI stuff. There's just a ton of money being poured into this. And then the last thing, I think it was earlier this year, Mark Zuckerberg shared a post on Facebook. They're building, just one of their AI data centers that they're building in Richard Parish, Louisiana, is on a site that is 1,400 acres. It's a data center that will be 4 million square feet. By the way, 4 million square feet, just in like the context of things. 4 million square feet. That's as much floor space as the Willis Tower in Chicago. It's almost as much floor space as the Pentagon, which has about 6.5 million square foot of office space, or of space. Like, we're talking like they're building basically like 2/3 of a Pentagon in Louisiana for one data center on a 1,400 acre site. There's just a ton of money and resources flowing into AI. Even if we never achieve super intelligence, it will be things that are happening are going to be fun to watch.
Yeah, the
Anyone
rate of
care to
evolution
go down the rabbit hole of the singularity for our audience?
Right. That's the singularity. Once we create super intelligence, then we are basically enslaved to the robots rather than the other way around. But Jason, you were gonna say something.
No, it's interesting because like I was seeing something from the CEO of Microsoft where he wasn't calling it hype right now, but he's like, we're not really seeing the value coming out of AI right now, and it's like the company who can first like really unlock that is who's going to be the winner. So like, I'm curious what your thoughts are on that in contrast to what you just said, which is like, to me, like that feels like the peak of AI hype, but I feel like we could probably still go further.
I'm starting to see the value. I'm a sucker, and I signed up for the like the highest version of ChatGPT, like the $200 a month version, and I started doing some deep research on topics that were of interest to Beasley. And let me tell you, like, for $200, you can create 100 reports a month. Just one of the reports. Like, if you value anybody's time at $200 an hour, then just one of those reports makes it worth it. And we created a report. So one of the reports that we created was, tell me what I'm not thinking about when I need to be thinking about in terms of like long-term exposures for property and casualty insurance companies. And I got a list of like mind-blowing stuff, some of which we did think about, but others that we didn't think about. Things like ocean methane releases and super volcanoes. And
this is like a nightmare-inducing thing, Greg.
Yeah, this is some nightmare fuel. This is some nightmare fuel, but it provided just a laundry list of things. It's like, oh my gosh, this is really interesting. We need to investigate this. But you know what? Then I said, after it created this list, this big long list of everything that a P&C company needs to worry about, I said,
It knows your profile. It's seen your
it
prompts
knows
for
maybe
years.
It
it's
knows its
playing to its audience.
audience.
But yeah, no, that insight, and we've generated a bunch of other reports since then. Yeah, I see the value. I think it's really valuable, and it will continue to be valuable.
Yeah, I agree. I find AI to be extremely valuable. I don't fear it at all right now. I mean, conceptually, I understand the fears, of course, but I've not yet seen anything that has blown me away as far as critical thinking in the sense of like what a human can add, looking at the 360 degrees of something, the emotional issues there. It still is not funny. I've never laughed at an artificial intelligence generated joke, at least not yet.
That's a challenge for you,
And
Craig.
you're prompting it wrong.
Yeah.
You're prompting it wrong, Stu.
Maybe it's your sense of humor.
Yeah, perhaps, but I don't know. I think I do okay in that department. But,
I always think back though of we're going to create and everyone should be using AI to help kind of expedite the low hanging fruit and as a thought partner. That's how I kind of think of it. But what always kind of gets me interested is what's going to happen 50 to 75 years from now. Right, like you have a lot of companies that are saying, "Hey, we're gonna cut down on hiring new software developers." And I always go back to who is going to be smart enough if they can't take the lazy way out of just like go code this. There's something called vibe coding, which is like you're basically just using whatever platform to code for you through natural language. You say I want to build this, and it goes and builds it. And so I always wonder, like, how do we create the experts who can continue to fine tune these things to keep driving it forward? Because like we're not at the point yet where it's going to do it autonomously. Craig, to your point, like we'll get there eventually, right? With at some point, but that's the thing where it's like, how do we keep the progress moving where we don't have to only rely on AI in the future? And like, how do we still have really smart people?
Yeah, and how do you keep a handle of everything if it's just AI improving AI? Like it's completely out of your control then. But I think at least for the medium term, I don't think we're going to end up with. Well, here's my perspective on this. I was curious, spreadsheets. I kind of view AI as kind of like a spreadsheet. Like you can use it 1,000 different ways. Everybody's like, well, I can, here they think they know the ways they can use it, but there's really like 1,000 different things you can use it for. And like if you look back in like 1980, the number of accountants there were, you would think, okay, well, spreadsheets must have been viewed as like this accountant killer. Accountants must have been running for the hills, being like, this is going to take my job. But if you look at the number of accountants who are employed today versus the number of accountants employed in 1980, the number has increased, and it has increased faster than the rate of increase in the population of the United States. And I kind of feel like people who are involved in technology, people who are coding things, they might be worried, and all of us, I think, might be worried about AI is going to take our job. But I think it's really going to be people who are using AI will be taking your job, but there will be lots of jobs for people who are using AI.
Yeah, and that's why you have to maintain the edge by using AI. Like otherwise you're just going to fall behind.
It's a really good perspective. I mean, you have like one of the things I did first was like the IBM free AI training or whatever, which by the way I thought was actually quite good, just to get that high level familiarity. But I guess my perspective on this topic is that we are seeing certain industries affected more than others so far. Like news, media, any sort of art is what I've observed being affected quite a bit, at least by this generation of AI. But I do think, like looking back historically at artificial intelligence, we have lots of AI winters that have occurred too. So in some cases, I think you have a handful of people that are saying like, where is the value? What is the value here with this? I'm waiting for it to deliver that monetary gain for my organization. And then on the other side, you have the people that are in full support and seeing the complementary value and the pouring in of money that we see from the large tech organizations into artificial intelligence. I think there's going to be waves of it still. I think there probably will be some other AI winter that we hit at some point in time too. Really, really interesting topic to bring up for sure.
I just realized it's 11:30 here. Like we have hit the time, and we were
My bad.
We were just
No, that was a
riffing on
good
AI
one. That was a
right
quick
this-
one, but it is
Sorry,
it is
Stu, you can't
time.
go
And
anymore.
thank you, everyone. I'm not afraid. I'm inspired. That's the way I'm going to leave this panel. But thank you to our guests, Craig Linton, Tyler Croak. Please, everyone in the audience, follow us on LinkedIn. That's where you can get all the exciting cyber stuff. Our next one will be April 4th. So tune in. The link will go up shortly. We have special guests lined up. We've got Jillian Stone. We've got Bob Parisi. And we've got Frank Brennan coming our way. So look out for that. That's going to be a good one. We have received a lot of requests to join our show as a guest. We thank you so much. We only do this once a month. So please be patient with us. We will get back to you. It's just, we're very excited about your excitement. So
We like talking with all different parts of the industry. Have a good rest of your day.
Bye,
Have a great
everyone.
day,